good to see you too. Jatin Goyal, Kamal Gupta, Nilavja Datta, Rituparna Bhaumik. Welcome everyone. Can we have a huge round of applause for them once again, please? So I am now going to share the presentation. One of the unique things about professional speakers, I'm going to share the presentation, and this is where everyone gets to talk about their short-term goals. Just for confirming, is Aditya Gupta here with us today?
No.
Aditya Gupta is not in this meeting. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Share. Right. I would now ask the person whose picture is on the screen to talk about their short-term goals.
Continue, Rupinder sir. Ankur is not in the meeting right now.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. This is Anshupriya Prasad, and my short-term goal is to improve my listening skills and deliver an impromptu speech on December 27th, 2020. And I'm working towards that, and I should be able to achieve this by this year end. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This is Anu over here. My short-term goal is to for 60% of the British Council learn English before, and I'm sorry that because of some medical emergencies, I'm not working. And from now onwards, I will start working on my short-term goals. I hope to achieve this by September 2020.
Good evening, everyone. I am Mukesh Thakur, and currently, as a short-term goal, I am pursuing improvement in pronunciation as well as enunciation. I have a target to achieve 9.5 out of 10 out of my own set parameters by the audience members. And this week, I have there is a progress. I have progressed from 5.9 to 7 this week. And this is scoring based on the responses from the audience. Thank you very much.
We skip this.
Hi everyone, I'm Honey. I have a short-term goal to complete my HPL and hence my DTM award by 30th December 2020. I intend and plan to blog and deliver 20 of my past 40 speeches, one each week from 17th August till 31st December. I'm done with one speech, but yes, I have not published it yet. I'll publish it this week. Along with that, I have chosen engaging humor parts on my Pathways curriculum. So I'll be working on that, completing level 1 by 30th December, reading 2 books and completing the Humor 101 course. So that's my short-term goal. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Raj Mehta. I'm working on 3 aspects. One is improving my pronunciation. Second is making videos of 5 to 7 minutes. And third is giving a module of at least 20 minutes outside my own club. As far as first goal is concerned, I have been reading books and I do not go to the next page until I'm able to pronounce each and every word of that particular phrase rightly. And making of videos of 5 to 7 minutes, it's being done, but somehow I could not find it. I did not find it uploadable at any public forum. I shall be doing it again. And giving a module of 20 minutes, I had booked one slot at one club, but somehow this could not materialize. I shall be working harder on it and ensure that during the next week I have some module delivered there. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
I have 4 short-term goals, mainly around improving my language and removing the filler sounds and making sure that I adhere to the time limits. In this respect, my progress has been erratic, although it has shown considerable improvement in a number of times, but I don't feel satisfied that it is a consistent improvement. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Oops. Good evening, everyone. I am
Good
looking. Hello.
You are audible, DTM Rupinder. Please carry on.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rupinder, and my short-term goal is to learn to smile naturally by September 26, 2020. I practice smiling for 30 minutes every day. These days, I've broken down this practice into modules of 5 minutes each, where I deliberately smile. And I also try to incorporate smiles in my speaking opportunities as and when there may be a chance.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shivpriya. My short-term goal is to improvise my written communication. I plan to write 9 articles by December 31st, 2020. Currently, my progress is at 33%. I have completed 3 of them. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Thank you. With the short-term goals done, we are now ready for our meeting. I've never been a fan of marathons, and Mukesh is witness here. He will tell you, God knows how many times he's told me to take part in a marathon, and I've never ever taken part. Having said that, I believe that I one day I might be able to walk that distance of a marathon. As I strive, I came across this topic by our Toastmaster of the day. And she said that no one quits the Boston Marathon at mile 25. And I was like intrigued. I mean, what do you mean nobody quits at mile 25? How do people even get to mile 25? Well, I don't know, obviously, and I'm pretty sure that she does, and she is going to explain it to us. She is a trainer, a talent specialist, and she is today going to talk about no one quits the Boston Marathon at mile 25. Let's welcome soon to be distinguished Toastmaster Hani Khanduja on stage. A round of applause for her. Thank you. Hani Khanduja, no one quits the Boston Marathon at mile 25. No one quits the Boston Marathon at mile 25. Hani Khanduja. Good luck.
Thank you, Rupinder Singh. I'm very sure those who actually get to reach to the mile 25 of Boston Marathon, or for that matter, any marathon, they train themselves, they think about winning it, and they practice a lot, right? So next time we'll talk about it offline. How are you going to run or walk your next marathon? So how many of you have actually taken part in any of the marathons so far? Quickly, a show of hand would definitely help me. Okay, thank you, Mukesh sir. Anybody, a virtual raise of hand will obviously help. Roly, thank you. Okay, I'm little disheartened to see only 3 marathon runners in this group. Okay, nevertheless, I'm very sure none of these 3 people, including me myself, we have not quit the marathon at 26 miles. And there's a reason to it. You must be wondering that I might be telling you about not to quit. But let me first tell you about the marathon. So here's how the graph looked like for quitting the marathon. Most of the quitting in the marathon happens at mile 20 and not mile 25. Many of us know that the Boston Marathon is the most popular, it's one of the oldest marathons for 25 not 25, but 26.2 miles, which is almost similar to what we have been doing at Airtel Marathon also. But there's an interesting correlation here that I want to bring to your attention. It's very hard to imagine that how would somebody quit at mile 25? You have the end sight right there. You would never quit at the 25th mile when you are supposed to run only a last mile. You have a huge crowd visible in front of you who are just going to make it. And for that matter, any marathon would have thousands and thousands of cheerleaders also to support you. But my point definitely is not to tell you how to run the marathon, when to quit the marathon, or what to visualize at mile 25. Using this graph, when we see that most of the quitting of the marathon happens at 20 mile and not mile 25, I want to bring your attention to the magic of thinking quit. Now, you must have heard and read about the magic of thinking big. That's a good book. I haven't read it yet, and I don't know about it either. But this particular talk or this particular conversation for the next 3 minutes is inspired and curated from The Dip by Seth Godin. I'm a huge fan of his work. His work is always very short, always very powerful. So what I want you to think about right now is, when do you quit and how do you quit? And for 1 minute or for the next 3 minutes, set aside the very popular quote or the very popular encouragement that we always get to hear: never quit, winners never quit, you can't quit, work hard. I want to take you a pause here right now, and I'm going to read an excerpt from the book as it is from The Dip. Most people will tell you that you need to persevere, to try harder, put in more hours, get more training, and work hard. Don't quit, they implore. But if all you need to do to succeed is not quit, then why do organizations less motivated than yours succeed? And why do individuals less talented than you win? Now, with this question in your mind, I want you to think about strategic thinking. Now, strategic thinking is the secret of successful organizations. Most of us are dealing with either reactive quitting or serial quitting. And let me tell you, they are the bane. They are the bane of those who want to strive and actually succeed. Most of us, including me, including you and me, everyone, we quit when it's painful, when it's very difficult. And we stick to things when they can't be bothered to quit. And that's what we want to change. So I want your attention for the next couple of minutes to understand the different types of situations, to know actually when to quit and when to stick. So Seth Godin has beautifully illustrated this life situation using 3 graphs. Probably I would say only 1 graph. The rest 2 are just giving some help to understand the path to failure. Now, here is the first one. This one is the dip, and this is the powerful slog between the starting and the mastery. Now, the long slog that you see here between the initiation or the beginning, when you are all excited, when you get to learn a new sport, or when you get into any new thing, you are very engaged, you are very charged up, you are very excited. Now, before you actually reach the mastery, there is a long slog that gets you where you want to go faster than any other path. It's a combination of bureaucracy and busy work that you must deal with to be the best. Because at the right-hand side, the peak that you are seeing, that's where every one of us want to reach. That's the mastery. That's being the best. Now, the dip is this long stretch between the beginner's luck and the real accomplishment, and we want to focus on the real accomplishment. But many of us don't even get there. Why? Either we could not survive the dip, or we just quit at probably the wrong time. So these are the 2 curves: the cul-de-sac, which is in French means dead end, and the cliff, which means nothing but a rare and a scary situation. Now, if I tell you the cul-de-sac is when everything is not, when nothing is actually changing. You are working, 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 nothing is changing, nothing is moving toward best, nothing is moving toward worse. It's just as is. When you find such situation in your life, just move out of it. Just get off it fast. The opportunity cost of investing your life here in such situations where there is nothing changing, but it's a dead end, that's too high. And the cliff that you see on the upper line, that is also a deadly situation, because that's a situation where you can't get quit until you fall off. The best example here is the smoking. You get onto it and it's very difficult to quit. In fact, it's almost impossible. The pain of quitting gets bigger and bigger over time. But let me tell you, both these curves are not helping us anyway. Both are leading to failure. Now just take a pause and realize the situations in your life. Either you are in the dip where you are struggling hard, where you are actually putting in a lot of efforts, a lot of time, but you're not seeing any success, but that's okay. But if you are just visualizing and trying to see the light in the end, at the tunnel's end, you might not be at the right path. And that's where this particular graph will help you, because the dip is where the success happens. So combining all the three graphs, you know that where to quit, because the point where the cliff and the cul-de-sac will culminate together, you would know that this is not for me. In the beginning, it might be very exciting for you. In the beginning, it might be very engaging for you. But after some time, you might feel it monotonous. You might feel it boring. You might feel it difficult. You might feel it very difficult to quit, but you have to quit and you must quit. And after reading this book, I'm convinced that winners are the people who quit more often, because we have to go through the dip for the right things, not everything. You cannot go through the dip for everything, because you have to be the best. If you want to be the best, you have to go through the dip. You can actually see the bad quitting point also. And that bad quitting point is what most of us get into. Because we are always thinking that, no, I'll get through. No, I'll get through. But maybe you are in a wrong position. So I particularly love this idea. And if you actually want to explore more of this idea, I would recommend you to go through the book. It's a very short, quick read book, The Dip by Seth Godin. And very beautifully, he puts that winners quit all the time. They just quit the right stuff at the right time. So I would definitely say, don't quit the marathon at mile 25. Don't quit the marathon at mile 20 also. But just realize, if marathon is for you, definitely it might not be for Rupinder, because he might feel that he's wasting his time there, rather he can invest in somewhere else, similar to any other example of your life. Just think about it, and we'll take you through some real life examples throughout this professional speakers meeting as we progress. So that's what I wanted to share about not the Boston Marathon, but about quitting. Now we move to our professional speakers meeting, where we actually have a very exciting structure. We have the prepared speech sections and the table topic section, just like any other Toastmasters meeting. But in addition to that, we have two very important sections. One, the professional speech, wherein a professional speaker delivers an 18 to 20 minute speech, and a power talk speech, where we have a power-packed session of 10 minutes from some guest faculty. So I hope we all are looking forward to it. And before we look forward to it, let me welcome the general evaluator of our meeting, Toastmaster Roli Sinha, along with a team of supplementary evaluators. And to welcome the supplementary evaluators, I would just request you to give them a virtual round of applause as we go and invite. So we have our timer, Toastmaster Anu, Toastmaster Mukesh Thakur, GTM, he's the R counter, and Toastmaster Shivpriya Gauri, grammarian. who's going to help us with the word of the day. May I request Toastmaster Shivpriya to share the word of the day, and in case you want to share the screen, let me go off and let her share the screen.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the Day. I would not be sharing the screen. I would simply be putting the word of the day in the chat window. For this particular meeting, the word of the day is fervid, which is an adjective. The meaning is intensely enthusiastic or passionate. Usage: the child showed a fervid fascination for superheroes, poring over comic books for hours. Our Toastmaster of the day was absolutely fervid when it comes to marathon, as well as not quitting. I would be sharing the word of the day in the chat box, so allowing everyone to use that. I would encourage each one of you to use that and incorporate this word in your speech. And as an acknowledgement and as motivation, I would request each members to give a virtual thumbs up when any member uses so. I would be sharing my report at the general evaluation section. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. So now, sorry, my bad. Sorry. Thank you, Shivpriya Gauri DTM, for the forward as a word of the day. And I request everyone to just look into the chat window. She has shared the word of the day. I, though, would agree to give a virtual thumbs up, but yes, it is always encouraging and good if you can actually switch on your camera and be kind of physically present in our professional speakers meeting. Trust me, it's going to be a lot of fun. So now, I would also request all the speakers and the table topic speakers, whenever they are getting onto the virtual stage, to actually pin Timer's video in case Timer is sharing the cards. Anu, would you be sharing the Timer screens or Timer cards? And yes, she'll be helping you in the chat window as well. She'll be writing in the chat. Okay, so now moving on to our first and the most exciting session of the meeting. And that's where we have a professional speaker, Rupinder Singh DTM, with 7 steps to a perfect speech. Now, most of you would know that Rupinder would never run a marathon. Agreed? I agree so. But when I asked him, what are the things that he's a quitter at? He very beautifully said that I quit certain relationships which were asking or which was actually urging him to spend more time, which he could have invested somewhere else. So rather than going through the dip, the situation where he could be frustrated of spending in a lot of efforts and time in a relationship and not ever going to reach that mastery, he decided to quit at the right time. That's one of the best examples of quitting. Thank you, Rupinder, for sharing it. Everyone knows Rupinder, right? I want to know him a little better. So from his speech, I'm looking forward to the 7 steps of a successful speech. Rupinder is a compulsive chonizer, a lethargic laggard, and a sound sleeper. He's father to a handsome son. He who believes he has taken after his father, self-confessed, wonderful husband. And there is a difference of opinion about his humor skills that I also have. Now, Rupinder drives improvement and excellence in learning and development professionals, or most of the time I find him attending the Toastmasters meeting. So sometimes I actually wonder how he gets into so much stuff and how do he get to manage so well his time. But yes, we are all fortunate to look forward to his professional speech today, which is something that I also urge to learn. So I welcome you, Rupinder, on the virtual stage of Professional Speakers Club. Over to you, Rupinder Singh DTM. 7 steps to a successful speech. 7 steps to a successful speech. Rupinder Singh DTM.
Sound check, 1, 2, 3. I'm pretty sure I'm audible. The microphone says that I'm unmuted. Good evening, everyone. And today I'm going to talk about writing a speech. or is it writing a speech? Because I have seen a lot of people who never write their speeches. They simply write points and they come to speak on those points. There are others who will write each step. They will write what is the kind of reaction they are going to have, what is the reaction they are expecting from the audience, and where they're going, where they're going to utter a pause. So different people have different styles. I'm going to talk about the most common one of them, and that is 7 steps to speech writing excellence. So the first step, how many of you, when presented with a prepared speech opportunity, search around for a topic? How many of you do that? In the participant window, please, could you please raise your hands in the participants window? How many of you search? So guest Kapil Kakkar searches. Anyone else who searches for speech topics? Shivpriya searches. Anil searches. Seema searches. Hriday searches. A lot of us search for speech topics as speakers. And yet, there is a very simple way of finding a speech topic for yourself. I always encourage people that they should go to other clubs meetings, even if they are not playing a role, even if they are not doing a table topic, because table topics is where the magic lies. How many of you have come across this situation that somebody is given a table topic and you say, that should have come to me, I would have nailed it? How many of you do that? Show of hands. If I had got that table topic, I would have absolutely nailed it. Okay. How many of you act upon that urge? What stops you from writing a 5 to 7 minute speech on that table topic? And I know a lot of us, and me personally, I've not done that a lot. But to me, table topics are an instant inspiration for the kind of speeches I want to write. And many times you will find me in Toastmasters meetings just for the table topic section, not because I want to speak, but because I simply want to get new topics. You see, I am amongst the lowest common denominator. I'm not a creative person by any stretch of imagination. So ideas don't come to me the way they come to, let's say, a Mukesh Thakur or a Raj Mehta. I often have to depend on other people to provide me topics, and what better way than table topics. Second thing, and this is where it gets interesting. Why do you give speeches? Can somebody type in the chat window? Why do you give speeches? To change the world. Wonderful, Mukesh. To express, excellent. And Shupriya, you're on the right track. Communicate your ideas, right, Anil? To share, to give a message with that. And so many of us are talking about message. Yet, how many of us incorporate a message in our speeches? I learnt about it the difficult way. Mohammad Katani, he had come to IIT. The same day I had won my division level championship, I was going to district. And I made the mistake of asking him, how do I write a championship winning speech? And Mohammad Katani said to me, if you step off the stage and die, what do you want the world to remember you for? Is it the fact that you died while giving a speech? Or do you want them to remember you for your speech, for the speech that you gave? Each speech needs to have a takeaway that resonates inside the audience head, where the audience is sold on this, that yes, this is easy, I can easily try this. Third tip, when you writing for the I is very different from writing for the ear. When you write for the eye, when you write for people to read, your language is going to be very different than from when you are writing for people to hear. Big difference there. And I can demonstrate that. Open a Word document, try typing I wasn't going to go there. Immediately you will see Word underlining that with a blue squiggly line and saying that we do not encourage people to use can't or wasn't. We encourage them to use complete sentences, which, if you're writing for the eye, makes sense. But when we speak, we use a lot of colloquial terms. For example, we tend to use gonna, we tend to use haven't, mustn't, those kind of reductions. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. As you write your speeches and you try delivering the speeches you've written, you will find yourself fumbling, because what you've written is for the eye and not for the ear. And whenever you find yourself fumbling, find a better phrase, put that inside, and trust me, your speech will reduce in size. And speaking of reducing in size, if I have 1,500 word speech, should I start with a 1,500 word speech, or should I narrow it down to, let's say, 700, 750? In the chat box, please. Okay. Ankur wants to go even lower. He said 700. The point is that I would always write a 1,500 word speech first, because it is easier to take out content than to add fresh content. When you are giving, let's say, a 500 word speech, you will find it very difficult to add extra content to make it a 750 or an 800 word speech. But when you have a 1,000 word speech, it is easy to bring it down to 700. And I have Toastmaster Shipriya Gauri sitting here, who actually has accomplished that. Her speech ran into 1,300 words. She brought it down to 737 for her international contest speech. And it's been my experience that it is easier to take out content, deciding that, okay, this story does not fit in here. Actually, this story fits in here. And if I take out the story, it does not make a difference. So I would rather focus on the stories that would actually reinforce my message. Now, I might have 5 different stories, but I will choose only 3 of them. That is what I did with my championship speech. Why me? Originally, when I gave the speech, it was 12 minutes long. 12 minutes long and hastily constructed, because somebody was not going to give a speech and I was supposed to give a speech. I did that while driving a car, having Pallavi Sana by my side and asking her to write that speech for me. And when I gave it, it was 12 minutes long, and I kind of brought it down to somewhere around 7 minutes. It's easier to take out content than it is to plug in extra content. That way, what happens is that when you're on the stage and you feel that you've got more time left, you can easily slip in another story if you want to do that. Although I would never encourage you to do that, you can easily do that. Or if you think that by the end of your 3 stories, time has run out, the green card has come up, stop it at the second story, because you are definitely going to lose time, because you're definitely going to get disqualified on time. Start going into the conclusion of your speech. The 6th step, that is that when you write your speech, what I did was that I divided it into 5 different parts. So my speech was of 5 different parts. And Mukesh here is actually a witness how we used to practice. I would start off from any part in the speech. And there was a time when we actually timed every part. The opening was taking around 1 minute 30 seconds. We practiced, it came down to 1 minute 15 seconds. The second story was taking a bit longer, so the second and the third story had to be shortened. The conclusion was the most impactful part, so it had to get more attention. Now, when you do things like that, you will be able to, on the stage, manipulate your speech. And speaking of manipulating your speeches, here is the final advice: do not memorize your speech. Always practice. Never ever memorize your speech. Because if you memorize your speech, you're setting yourself up for disaster. Why? Because when you're memorizing your speech, your brain is only focused on remembering that speech. Your brain is not focused on the hand gestures or on the floor movements or on the vocal variety or the expressions that you are going to deliver there. And when you tell your brain that, look, I want to raise my hand at this time, the brain is going to put up his hands. It's going to say that, look, I only can help you remember your speech. And I've seen this happen. Perhaps it is the educational system in which we brought up, in which we have been brought up. We have been we have been implored upon to memorize more than to understand. What happens when you understand your speech and when you practice it? There is this thing called muscle memory. That muscle memory comes to your aid. Your hands will say to the brain that, look, I've got this. I know when to be shown. I know to whom to point to. Don't worry about that. Focus on delivering your speech. Your legs will tell you, look, I know which part of the stage to go to. Don't bother about me. I will take you wherever you want to take you, wherever you want to go. Focus on delivering your speech. Your eyes will tell you, we've got this. We are going to focus on making the right eye contact with the right people. Do not focus on eye contact. We've got this. When you practice your speech, this is what happens. So, summarizing, the first thing that I talked about was go to club meetings, find out table topics. You'll find out the best table topic for yourself. The second thing that I spoke about was that writing for the ear is very different from writing for the eye. Third thing, when you are writing, and if your speech is about 1,500 words, then in my opinion, you should have 1,500 words out there and then take out words. Next, when you are when you are trying to recall your speech on stage, remember not to memorize. Practice your speech. Because when you practice your speech, muscle memory takes over. Once muscle memory takes over, then your speech becomes that much better. Hopefully, this was some fruitful advice for you. I will copy paste the advices that I gave, and there were a lot of them, in the chat box. Do take them home. Should you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I will be happy to answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Toastmaster Rupinder Singh. May I request, thank you everyone. So may I request a 1 minute silence for writing the feedback for Toastmaster Rupinder's speech. In the evaluation section, all of us can help him with the feedback. So I request you for a 1 minute silence, and Anu can help me with the timing. Thank you, Anu. So moving on to our next section, wherein all of us can be the speaker. It's a very exciting table topic section, like the most loved section of Toastmasters meeting. And just like Rupinder mentioned, you can pick your next speech idea from these table topics. So be prepared. As our table topic master, Toastmaster Anshu Priya Prasad is going to help us unveil certain exciting speech ideas that we might have. So Toastmaster Anshu Priya Prasad shared a beautiful incident of her being a quitter with me. And that was a few years back when she wanted, and she was actually fascinated by some guru whom she wanted to communicate with, and to communicate with him better, she wanted to learn Tamil. She started learning Tamil. And within just 10 days, she realized that no, I don't want to learn Tamil. It's way too tough. And I would rather focus on my English, because English is also a language that person was using, and English is a global language. So rather than focusing her efforts and energy on learning Tamil at that moment of time, she focused her energies in getting and becoming a better speaker in English. And that's a wonderful choice. She's a quitter, but she's a winner at English now. Anshu Priya Prasad is a journalist. She's working as a senior producer with India TV. She joined Toastmasters in February 2018, and she's a believer in continuous learning. Today, Anshu Priya is going to help us with an exciting table topic session. Anshu Priya, the stage is all yours. Please welcome Anshu Priya with a huge round of applause.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and distinguished guests. Table topics are the mini speeches, like a mini speech with an opening, a body, and a conclusion. Table topics enables a speaker to quickly organize and express their thoughts. And the best part of this segment is that the guests can also participate. Each speaker is required to speak for 1 to 2 minutes. Participants will be disqualified if they speak less than 1 minute or exceed 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Each speaker should use the word of the day in the speech, which is forbid. So all the forbid volunteers, please send your name in the chat window. I would request all the guests to participate. So I can't see anyone's name in the chat window. So, okay, Kapil, I got the first volunteer. Kapil, your topic is, let me share my screen. So, is it visible now? Kapil, can you see it?
Yeah, now I can see.
Okay, you are allowed to, just a sec. You are allowed to scream, you are allowed to cry, but do not give up.
Absolutely. I actually echo this statement because I'm a student of, I was a student of chartered accountancy, as Mukesh is also a chartered accountant, and I'm also a qualified chartered accountant. This is one thing that was actually was very true with all chartered accountants. Yeah, the result percentage is very low. I mean, there will be time when you did your examination very well, but you still couldn't go through to the next group or next level, right? So this is one thing that is the trait of or the hallmark of a chartered accountant, that they never give up. That is one approach that we all follow. You can ask any chartered accountant or any cost accountant. They are the tough nuts to crack. They have seen all the ups and downs in the examinations. So I remember my days in cost accountancy, when I couldn't clear my cost accountancy in the first attempt, I screamed, I cried, but I never gave up. And eventually, I was able to clear my cost accountancy as well in the 5 years, though the allowed time, I mean, the minimum time in which you can complete your cost accountancy is 3 years. I took 5 years to complete that, but 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 the approach of never never say die or never give up attitude resulted in having the cost accountancy degree in my hand. And luckily, I was fortunate enough to clear my chartered accountancy in one attempt, but I saw the tough times in chartered accountancy as well. So though it was all related to my real life experience, but it holds so true in every sphere of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Kapil. That was really wonderful. Now I have second volunteer, Astana Banu. So let me share my screen again. Nothing is worth it if you aren't happy.
Okay. Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters. I do believe that everything you do in your life should make you happy. Either, if like we are in Toastmasters, we are here because we like speaking. We get happy when we speak, or someone praise us, or we sometimes lose, but we are happy enough to get it onto the platform once again, so as to have an impact that makes us get going, just like our fellow Toastmaster, the TMOD of the day, that we are not quitting, we are quitting to come out with a stronger. Like sometimes we fail, but then we goes up. Why? Because that thing gives us a flavor that you should, and you should come. And next time when you will be the winner, taking all those things in your hand and finding it right, you will be happy enough to enjoy each and every moment of your life and just go it on. Like our first speaker, I'm also a chartered accountant, and I don't think it's just a coincidence, but yes, chartered accountant give me happiness when I become a chartered accountant. So yeah, do whatever makes you happy, and the life is just being happy and being helpful to each and everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Astana. That was such a lovely speech. So
Thank you.
I can't see any more volunteers, so I would be taking names. Okay, okay, I got two more names. So I would go with Jaideep. Jaideep, yeah, let me share my screen. So your topic is, let them ridicule you, laugh at you, hurt you, and ignore you, but never let them stop you.
Can you share again? I was disconnecting my Bluetooth. Okay, this is the topic.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. So, okay. So let them ridicule you, laugh you, hurt you, ignore you. Okay. So my time starts now?
Yes.
Yes. So, yes, I relate with this quote exactly, because I myself has written a quote in my 10+1. The fact is in being one, which one cannot. So I always love to challenge myself. So I always explore different fields. I do freelance photography, I do storytelling. Now I'm moving in public speaking, and I love to do theater. So I can relate with this in a way that you should follow your heart and take that lead, and things will follow. So there will be people who will criticize you. I have so many good so-called mentor figures in my life. They advised me, don't go for public speaking. I'm already doing a course. I'm here. So I just followed my heart because that is what I connect with. So in that sense, I exactly relate with this quote. So in a way, we should follow. And then there is a statement called the massive success is biggest revenge. There's nothing like revenge. You should follow your lead and prove your thing. So that is, thank you.
Thank you, Jaideep. You rightly said. So this was our last topic. I hope that you all have enjoyed the session. Thank you. Over to you, Hani.
Thank you, Anshupriya. That was indeed an exciting session. Just give me a second. Okay. So moving to our next section, wherein we have our prepared speakers ready to deliver their prepared speeches. Our first speaker for today is Toastmaster Raj Mehta. Raj Mehta, DTM, is going to deliver a speech which I'm personally looking at. But before I go ahead, let me introduce him. He's a visiting faculty, a trainer in soft skills, and speaker on entrepreneurship, innovation, and incubation. He's a two-time distinguished Toastmaster. He's a postgraduate in science and MBA in finance. He has a rich work experience of 35 years in management and training in private, multinational, and public sectors, as well as he's a technology transfer officer at Foundation for Innovation and Technology Transfer at IIT. When I asked him what he was a quitter at, I was a little surprised to see that he said, I cannot find any such incident. But then he also shared one thing which actually relates to me very strongly. He said that there was a thing, a learning course of digital marketing that he quit at the wrong time, which he regrets now. So probably, yes, there are a lot of things in our life which we regret quitting, not realizing of that importance. Probably we would have been in the dip and we quit. Look back at situations, everyone. You might be there facing the dip, but the dip is a success point. Don't quit there. I hope Raj Mehta would be taking through us, taking through the sessions, a lot of learnings as well. And looking forward to his speech. He's going to deliver from Visionary Communication Level 3 Project 2 with an objective of body language. His time limit for the speech is 5 to 7 minutes. Toastmaster Raj Mehta, DTM, TBD Raj Mehta. Over to you. The virtual stage is all yours.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day, Hani Furnuza. Let me first check from you whether I'm audible and visible.
Yes, sir. You are audible and visible properly.
Thank you. Dear TVDs, good afternoon. First thing first, please do not try to unabbreviate the TBD which I used just now. Just listen to me. I assure you that you will be spared for the burden of unraveling the mystery of TBD. Yesterday, I went to express my solemnity to my friend David, originally Dalvinder. His father had died a day before. I reached at the main gate of the house. There was yet half an hour to start the last journey of the deceased. Dalvinder was standing in his drawing room near the dead body of his father. I went close to him and asked, when did he die? Without looking at me, he said, TBD. TBD, what's that? I questioned myself, but could not find the answer. After some time, I again asked him, where did he die? This time, not looking towards me and looking again to his father's dead body, he replied, TBD. Again TBD. What is this TBD? I dug in and dug out myself, but could not find the meaning of the word TBD. I got impatient. I put my hand on his shoulder went a bit closer and asked, "Has he really died?" Because I had got impatient. I had thought that this time he would reply me in some words, but he said, "TBT." Believe it or not, I did not shoulder to the dead body during his last journey just because of the TBD. When the fire was light, I found the answers to my questions. From Panditji, who said, "In this world, everything is destined to end someday. When and how are TBD to be decided, to be declared, and to be determined by God and God only. Thank God, now I know the meaning of TBD, to be dash. While returning home in the evening, in order not to muddy the water further, I decided not to speak, listen, or see the three monkeys, the three letters. Suddenly, I remembered that my wife had asked me to buy some household articles from a
I think there is some connectivity issues that our speaker might be facing. Toastmaster Raj Mehta, are you able to hear us? Toastmaster Raj Mehta, can you hear us?
We can wait for another 10-15 seconds, and otherwise we'll just move on to the next speaker and we can come back to Raj sir.
Sure.
Honey, I think we should move on. We'll come back to Raj sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Roli. So we'll wait for Raj Mehta DTM to come back and deliver his speech where he left from. So moving on to the next section, which I mentioned is going to be a power pack section, and as the name goes, for the power talk that we are looking at. So today our power talk speaker is a word nerd. And for us, honestly, it's a privilege to have her at our professional speakers meeting. Toastmaster Punita Singh, or rather I should say Dr. Punita Singh DTM. She's a veteran communication professional who has worked across academic, corporate, and non-profit settings. She has taught at Washington University in the USA, McGill University in Canada, and the School of Convergence and Ashoka University in India. She has also served as a consultant to the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, and advisor to various NGOs. All of us know and actually look up to Dr. Punita Singh. I remember meeting her at my first Toastmasters conference ever in Pune 2011, and she was the first, and she is the first district governor of then newly formed District 41. And at that time, someone asked her that it's going to be tough to be serving as the leader of a newly formed district. And I was amazed, amused, and inspired by the reply that she gave. She mentioned, "I'm tougher and we'll be successful." Since that day until that date, I always look up to her. She has a deep expertise in verbal, written, strategic, interpersonal, and intercultural communication. She can communicate comfortably in 7 languages. And DTM must be a very small title for her. I urge you all to welcome our Power Talk speaker, Dr. Punita Singh, DTM. Stuck in the word rut, cut the cliche and refresh your language. Stuck in the word rut, cut the cliches and refresh your language. Dr. Punita Singh, DTM. Ma'am, the stage is all yours.
Hi, honey. Hi, everybody. I'm going to share my screen. Oh, you have to allow me to do that.
Yes, ma'am. Allowed. You can try once more time.
Can you see my screen?
Not yet. You'll have to probably double click on the share button or just click on the second share button as well.
Should I upload it to Zoom? Is that the way to do it?
Oh, no. You just go to the, you're sharing a PowerPoint slide, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you just go and try
I'm doing it
sharing
from
the
a phone.
screen.
I'm doing it from a phone. That's the thing. I've
Okay,
done it
so
before.
on the, yeah, so in the middle of your screen, if you just tap on it, you'll see the green share icon.
Yeah.
Just tap on that. And you'll be able to see a document. You can try that, or you can try a screen.
Oh, gosh. What's wrong with this? Just a moment. I can do it maybe from my mail because I could see an option for Gmail.
Okay.
Okay.
Punita ma'am, if you just share the PPT, I can operate the slides for you.
Okay.
You can share it with Devina on WhatsApp or send her an email. Either way would work.
Okay.
Or
Is Raj back? You want to continue with him while we sort this out?
Do we have Raj sir back?
No, we don't have Raj sir yet in the meeting. So
Yeah, let's okay. That's fine, Punita ma'am. We can just figure this out. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Honey,
either
can I
you can
email it to you?
Sure. Punita ma'am, you can share it with any of us. And in case you are seeing the share file option,
Yeah.
that is also, then that file also would be accessible to all of us.
Just one moment. 1 second. I've recently done this and it worked fine. So I was hoping it would
yeah,
again.
you could just try using the screen option. So you'll see a lot of options, right? The second last option should be the screen option. You can try that as well. It should help.
Yeah, there is a copy to Zoom option. Should I try that?
Okay. I think that might take a little while.
Is it there? Yeah, I see it.
Yes, we can see the
Yes,
screen.
we can see
Okay,
the
so
screen.
this works. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, a bit of a unnerving start, which is appropriate because this is exactly how I was feeling at the start at prepping for this session. And I'm sure you all get the visual metaphor that's on the screen right now. Right?
Butterflies in the stomach?
Stomach,
Exactly.
yes.
Yeah, butterflies in the stomach, which I've always been curious about. I mean, how did that originate? Did somebody swallow butterflies and the feeling that it created, is that what led to this idiom, or how was it coined? And it was interesting to find out that it's actually related to a depletion of blood supply to the gut, which gives a fluttery feeling. And then I guess someone used poetic license and made the analogy to butterflies. But this is exactly how I was feeling prepping for this, because I haven't been to a meeting in ages. Honey was talking about quitting, and I guess I quit public speaker, professional speakers a while ago. And I'm not sure about the timing in terms of the marathon analogy, but that's what it was. So the butterflies were quite strongly fluttering in my tummy today. And then I thought, let me just dig deeper into these kinds of idioms, many of which have become cliches, and many of which we turn to for help when we want to express ourselves. And we're at a loss for words. And we turn to these sorts of familiar expressions, metaphors, cliches. And sometimes they start to sound a little bit tired and stale. And that's where the analogy of the rut came in. So does everyone know what a rut is? Hi, are people there? I still can't, I can't hear anyone.
Devina, you are trying to speak something. Please unmute.
Okay.
It's a mire or some place where you get badly stuck. It's not really the most wonderful place to be.
Yeah, right. So a rut is literally the track made. For example, when a vehicle goes repeatedly in a field like this, and you end up with a very deep track. And initially, it's a good thing to carve out a path where there was none. But if you keep using that track over and over and over again, it can create a rut. And then it becomes quite easy for following vehicles to get stuck in that rut. And even if you might have a four-wheel drive like this one, you could get stuck in a rut. And believe me, I have been stuck literally in a rut like that. And it's not easy to get out. Has anyone else ever been stuck in a literal rut like that?
Several times.
Yes.
And then how do you get out of it? You need a push, or you need to accelerate, or did anyone come up with another way to get out?
So you need a push, a strong push. You need to accelerate at the right time, and you need to wedge something under the wheel so that it propels out of it.
Right.
And then you need a strong pull as well. Yes.
Yeah, so ruts can be, initially when you're carving a path, it's a good thing. But when it becomes a rut, it goes from being a positive thing to a negative thing. And very often what happens is this happens to our language. And that's where cliches and collocations come in. So cliches and collocations are word clusters that are quite akin to a rut. Okay? I think everyone knows what a cliche is. A cliche is a saying that at one point was quite original and very expressive, very often metaphoric. And it painted an image, and it was useful in expressing something. And then maybe it worked so well that people started copying it. And so more and more people started using the same set of words again and again and again. And you end up with something that's quite hackneyed, quite stale, really. And that's what a cliche is. So this is what Wikipedia has to say: an expression or idea which is overused to the point of losing its original meaning or effect. So when it loses that novelty and impact, it no longer serves us when we want to express ourselves. So that's what a cliche is. Now, what a cliche has been said many times before, yeah. So some common cliches, I've listed here things like ignorance is bliss, you can't judge a book by its cover, the grass is always greener on the other side, reading between the lines, the elephant in the room, play your cards right, an uphill battle, cool as a cucumber, low-hanging fruit, a seat at the table. So we use cliches quite a lot in the business world as well. Think out of the box. Laughter is the best medicine. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and so on. I'm sure everyone knows and uses cliches. I just used a cliche at the start of this session. So what is a collocation? Does anyone know what a collocation is? Is everybody on mute, or have I gone into a void?
No, collocation, I think it is basically how you're trying to customize it for a local audience or something, I'm guessing.
No, not really. That would be localization. But collocation is a group of words that often go together and that are more than likely, so more than chance, likely to occur together. Okay? Collocation, it is different from co-location, which is another term we use in the business world. But collocation actually comes from, like, locute is a word for speaking. So when there are groups of words that you speak together very often, that's called a collocation. So it's a fancy term for something that we do all the time. What are examples of that? It's crystal clear. She is so neat and tidy.
Powerful team.
Yeah, we arrived there safe and sound. I'm so sick and tired of this lockdown, right? So you hear these kinds of pairs of words. There are others like that also. Far and wide, part and parcel, wear and tear, high and dry, all or nothing, tooth and nail, hustle and bustle. So words, pairs like that, or words, sets of words that go together. In fact, we use a lot of collocations even in our Toastmasters meetings. And I'll get to some of those in a moment as well. Okay, so cliches and collocations, these are the kinds of dangerous words that we use that can get us into a rut. Now, when I was thinking of the word rut, other than the visual metaphor for a rut, just the word itself also made me think of rut in Hindi, ratna, which is when you just learn something by rote. You just learn it and then you repeat it without really paying attention to the deeper meaning of it or whether it's impactful. You're just reproducing something by rote, ratna. And I know we all do this for exams sometimes, you know, ratta lagana, like you're just learning up the content of what you have to study, maybe not digesting it fully. So that's another apt way of expressing what cliches and collocations can become when we just repeat them by rote without really paying attention even to what we are saying. Okay? And when you do that, I mean, this is a funny cartoon I found online where the teacher is cutting everybody's originality and cutting them down to the same size. And a lot of schools do that, right? A lot of schools actually encourage rote learning. And it saves the teacher time maybe, but you end up producing clones, people who are not original, students who've lost their creativity. So if everybody spoke the same way, it would really be extremely dull. So how do we break out of this habit of speaking by rote, of just repeating things that we've heard and that we've internalized and they just come naturally out of us now? So that's what we're trying to get into. Now, I'm not going to really give you like a total solution to this, but just to make you more mindful of what your favorite cliches and collocations might be, to dive deeper into some of them and to figure what we can do to alter them or to refresh them. Okay. So collocations serve a purpose. They can ease the effort of searching for words, and cliches are useful in painting word pictures. So there is a purpose that they serve, right? Cliches are very often metaphors, and metaphors are analogies. They make concepts come to life. So if you talk about an elephant in the room, that's so vivid. It's something that's so obvious and huge, and yet you're ignoring it. Or low-hanging fruit, which are easy wins. Or when you talk about a drop in the ocean, it's quite a vivid image of something that's just inadequate. And blue sky thinking is the opposite of that, right? Where there are no limits and you can just extend your thought process. Or standing on the shoulders of giants, which was a Newtonian expression. And what it means is that where you are today is because of all your predecessors. So some of these are very visual, very vivid, and very expressive. But when they're overused, when cliches and collocations are overused, they become ineffective and stale. And sometimes we repeat words so mindlessly that we don't even know what we are implying. Here's a favorite one that we hear all the time at Toastmasters, right? Anyone heard this lately?
Every second meeting.
Yes, every meeting.
Yes, every meeting.
So what does this mean? Can someone tell me what this means? What is the breakfast of champions?
So breakfast is the most important meal or important input for any person. So for champions, feedback is kind of a meal or kind of an input that person requires to start the day or, start the preparation or development.
Okay.
Find this a little demotivating this quote, it has never quite motivated or inspired me, because I do feel that we need to start from a place of being, feel that we are sufficient and we are enough. But this somehow is a little bit of a, pull down for me. I don't know. That's how
Yeah, I also find this quite, I mean, I used to just be mystified that what does this even mean, breakfast of champions? Like what are champions eating for breakfast? Is that what feedback is meant to be for us? So yeah, I guess at the back of it, whoever uses this intends to say that this is something that's going to be nourishing and encouraging for you. But it didn't always start out like that. This expression was made popular by a cereal company, like a breakfast cereal company, and like on a box of Wheaties, and they would put a sports person there and push the metaphor as if this is something that champions eat. They eat Wheaties, and that's why everyone else should eat them and become champions. But it's actually, it can be quite misleading, because there is an alternative to a meaning to this expression. And in fact, it's very often used ironically to refer to junk food, beer, caffeine, nicotine, and other substances. So is that really what we want to push when we're talking about the breakfast of champions? I mean, every time I hear that expression, I sort of groan, because I was like, oh no, not again. And then at every meeting, like you said, people just go on repeating it without really putting any thought into what it means. Couldn't we just say that feedback is the most nurturing and motivational thing that we get at Toastmasters, instead of this breakfast of champions just repeated verbatim at every single meeting? So there are expressions like this that we just keep falling into without realizing that they may not even be apt, that they may have outlived their usefulness, that they may have another cultural meaning that we are not even aware of. And so sometimes these cliches can cause a bit of a problem instead of being effective. Another one that I keep hearing a lot is, well, you just have to bite the bullet and do it. Have you heard that?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, these wartime metaphors always have bothered me, war room footing and all this kind of stuff. So why bullets? Why do you have to bite a bullet? Couldn't you just say grin and bear it, which means the same thing really and is as vivid and simpler? But this military metaphor, bite the bullet, comes from wartime, where soldiers were treated for injuries and perhaps they didn't have anesthesia, or you didn't want to hear the sound of the pain, and so you made them bite a bullet, literally, to stifle the cries. And so I find that sometimes the metaphors are not even appealing, and we're just repeating them by rote. So consider what we are saying, just give a little bit of thought. Everyone here at Toastmasters invests in their language and tries to be original and creative. So invest a little bit of thought also in the kind of metaphors you're using. Are they verging on being cliches? Are they words that you understand and like and really do want to use intentionally, or are you using them unintentionally? So speaking of bullets, there's also the silver bullet. This one drove me crazy in my previous job as a corporate communications person, where silver bullet was used so often in business papers. Does anyone else use this expression? And what does it mean to you? Does anyone use silver bullet?
I have never used it.
I have.
But you've heard of it?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I don't like it too much. I mean, I know that it is supposed to imply something really positive and complimentary, but I don't think so, simply because it comes from the wartime.
Yeah, so this one actually doesn't come from wartime. This one comes from killing werewolves.
Werewolves.
Killing werewolves and other supernatural demonic beings. And so what the metaphoric meaning of the silver bullet was that it came from mythology or early stories or whatever, that you needed a silver bullet to deal with such demons. And now the way it's used, it's become such a cliche, where it's used as the answer to everything, the magical solution to a problem. So, we are looking for a silver bullet for the COVID-19 crisis. So again, is it an effective metaphor? Not really. It's really become a cliche that people are using again and again. I hear it on the TV news. Well, you know, it's not a silver bullet. This vaccine is still in trial. You know, we haven't got a silver bullet. So you keep hearing this again and again. And I think a lot of people are just using it without thought. So silver bullet was originally used as a metaphor to kill werewolves, which are like half wolf, half man, and other such creatures. Then speaking of silver, there are silver metaphors that have become cliches, right? Like every cloud has a silver lining, you know, don't be depressed. Every cloud has a silver lining. And again, we keep saying this over and over again. When it's like become a tired cliche, and frankly, have you seen silver linings on clouds? I mean, maybe on a moonlit night, if you are staring up at the sky, you might see a little bit of a glisten around a cloud or two. But most of the time, we don't even see that. So again, this came from poetry, I think from Milton, and it's become overused as a metaphor for finding something positive in something negative. And I'm sure we can do better than just using a tired cliche. Other ones come from sports, like, oh, that's par for the course. Now, a lot of people are using this metaphor or cliche without realizing that it comes from the game of golf. And if you ask them to explain what it really means, they're stumped. Now, stumped itself is a cricket metaphor, but par for the course is how many strokes do you need to reach that hole on a particular green? And couldn't you just say something like average or normal instead of this cliche that is quite distant? Why is it not flipping now? Okay. Yeah, if I'm sounding like a broken record now, that's to come up with another cliche about a broken record. I've heard this so often, oh, you're sounding like a broken record. Well, frankly, I used to be a sound engineer, and a broken record would produce no sound because it's broken. So what is a broken record? The actual metaphor originally was not even a broken record. It was a stuck record. And this came about because in the old record players, the needle would bounce up and down in a groove, and you'd hear the same piece of sound going over and over again because the needle wouldn't move across the record. Now, how many people in this audience have ever even played a record?
Several times.
Okay, then you're my generation. But most people I think most of the audience in this crowd, and certainly anyone who's maybe 10 years younger than me, has probably never even seen a record, let alone heard a stuck record. So is this a cliche that, again, we're just using mindlessly? What might we replace it with? Something more contemporary? Like maybe you sound like a buffering video, or like, you know, you sound like a downloading file. I don't know. You could make one up that's more contemporary, instead of going with tired cliches that are not even vivid anymore because people don't even get them. So we can contemporize our language to make it more appropriate for the times. This is another one we keep repeating. Don't cry over spilled milk. Frankly, I don't like drinking milk, and I wouldn't cry if it spilled, except for the pain of having to clean it up. Now, if someone said, don't cry over spilled wine or over spilled beer or over spilled Coca-Cola, that might be cause for more anguish than crying over spilled milk. But so again, you know, what are the cliches you're using? What have you gotten habituated to? And can you freshen that up for contemporary usage? So one way of doing that is to come up with a twist. These are some funny ones I've heard lately, where there's a saying and then people twist maybe the ending of it to make it a little more witty and yet expressive. So when the going gets tough, usually you say the tough get going. This one is the tough go shopping. Or where there's a will, there's a way is the original. Or where there's a will, there's a family fighting over it. She looks like $1 million, tax-free. Or he's a jack of all trades. Normally would be followed by master of none, but here we have master of pun. So that adds, like, just by twisting the end is another way that you could alter a cliche and make it more funny and more expressive. There are various ways to do this. You could pick a word to change. You could pick an ending to change. That's been done here. So if we had more time, we could do a workshop on that, like come up with a bunch of cliches and then work with them, like actually pick up words out of cliches and see if we can modify them and contemporize them. About these collocations, these words that we tend to fall into. Now, every Toastmasters meeting, you tend to hear, you know, without further ado, let us put our hands together and welcome, so and so. Or many speeches begin with the collocation, have you ever, blah, 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 like a question. Have you ever such and such? Just today, I heard each and every one as a collocation, where it's redundant. If you're talking about each and every one, you could just say everyone, or for all. Each and every one is redundant, and yet we just tend to slip into it. Until and unless is another one. Very often in an evaluation, we'll go all in all, it was a good speech, and so on. So there are some little sets of words that we tend to also use a lot. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's boring. So just examine what your favorite collocations are and whether you need to refresh them. Some trending collocations I've been hearing lately. I was quite glued to the Democrats convention in the US, and these two collocations came up multiple times. One was, of course, a spoof on what their president had said, which is, it is what it is. And one is hearing this more and more around the world. It is what it is. So that's become a collocation or even a cliche. And then one nice one that I heard, the first time I heard it, I said, wow, that's really effective. And then I heard it again and again and again, and it started to lose its impact, which was meet the moment. So the moment is the kind of crisis we are facing right now, the situation we find ourselves in. So what can we do to meet the moment? That's a trending collocation that's happening right now. So how do we get out of the word rut? How do we refresh our language? Well, just by being more mindful, by using, we can still use cliches, we're not outlawing them, but use the ones that remain vivid and that are still appropriate to the times. And those that are not serving us, let's alter them creatively to enhance the meaning or to add humor. And we could cut them by replacing with words or with other words that make them more crisp, clear, and compelling. So keep your social distance from tired cliches and collocations. Avoid them like the plague or like the corona. And stay safe and sound, hale and hearty, in the pink of health. So I'm leaving you with a whole slew of cliches and collocations just to get your thought process going on what works and what doesn't, and what you can do to get out of the word rut. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Punita ma'am. Can we have a huge round of applause for this wonderful session? Even now when I'm using every word, I'm actually being more mindful. I hope I'm not using any cliche or collocation, but definitely all of us today had a good insight into what these words are. And honestly, like I personally was relating to it, that at my workplace, we so many times use the elephant, the big elephant in the room, and we never wonder what and how did it come into existence, and then we never realized it. So now we are going to be more mindful, more conscious, just like we are becoming more mindful in all what we do and our learning. So that was a wonderful session indeed. Thank you, Toastmaster Punita Singh, DTM. It was a pleasure having you for this power talk. Yes, thank you, Jayan, for initiating it. Okay. So now we'll move back to our speaker, Toastmaster Raj Mehta, DTM. He's back in the room. May I request Toastmaster Raj Mehta to just quickly check the audio and video, and if your network is fine, we can go ahead with your speech.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Okay. Yes. So Toastmaster Raj Mehta, TBD, Raj Mehta.
Dear TBDs, good afternoon. First thing first, please do not try to unabbreviate the word TBD, which I used just now. Just listen to me, and you will be spared for the burden of unraveling the mystery of TBD. Yesterday, I visited my friend Devil, originally Dalvinder. His father had died a day before. I reached at the main gate of the house. There was yet half an hour to start the last journey of the deceased. Dalvinder was standing near the dead body of his father. I went in and stood close to him. I asked him, Dalvinder, how did he die? Without looking at me, he said, TBD. TBD. What's that? I questioned myself, but could not find the answer. I waited for some time and then again asked Dalvinder. This time again, without turning his head towards me, he asked me, he said, TBD. Again TBD. I dug in and dug out myself, but could not find the meaning of the letters TBD. I got impatient. This time, I stepped a bit closer to him, put my hand on his shoulder, and asked, did he really die? This time again, I had expected that he would turn his head towards me and at least give his response in some words. But he said, TBD. I got so uncomfortable that I decided not to shoulder the dead body in his last journey. The fire was light, and I found the answers to my questions from Panditji, who said, in this world, everything is destined to end someday. When and how are TBD. To be decided, to be determined, and to be declared by God and God only. Thank God, now I know what TBD is. It is to be dash. You believe it or not, it made me happy enough that I felt like TBD, to be dancing. While returning home in the evening, in order not to muddy the water further, I decided not to speak, listen, or see the three monkeys. I mean the three letters. Suddenly I remembered that my wife had asked me to bring some household articles from the neighborhood shop. I went to the shop. Kerala Kirana Kendra is our neighborhood shop, from where we buy all the daily needs articles. Handing over a piece of paper, I asked the shopkeeper to pack the articles mentioned on the paper. After packing, the shopkeeper said, "Sir, is it TBD?" I asked. Oh my God, TBD? What do you mean by TBD? He said, "Sir, you don't know TBD?" I nodded. No. He told me boastfully, TBD here stands for to be deducted. To be deducted? From where? I asked. He said, "Sir, from the advance amount which your wife has deposited with us." I nodded in yes. Carrying a bag full of kitchen articles, I started walking to my house, which was a long away. Hectic activities had made me a dead duck totally, and I was dying for rest. I reached my home. My wife was working in the kitchen. I let myself fall onto the sofa and closed my eyes. My wife entered the drawing room. She offered me a glass of ruafza. I quenched my ruh, that is soul, while looking at her smiling face. After some time, my wife sat on her toes, folded her knees, covered my dorsal with her soft palms, and asked, "Raj, do you want TBD?" Again TBD. I asked her, "What do you mean by that?" She said, "To be, do little." Her TBD made me TBD. That is, took a beating on my dinner. That is, I missed my dinner. My dear TBDs, to be devil, to be doomed. One day I will die and you all will say TVD, TVD, TVD. Hakuna Matata. But I wonder why Devina smiled when I said that the title of my speech was TBD, which actually till then was to be decided and not the TBD itself. Over to TBD, keep guessing this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Raj Mehta. That was a hilarious speech. And I still am understanding what the last TBD would be. But meanwhile, I would request everyone to take quick 1 minute to write the feedback for his speech. And I would request timer to please help us with the timing. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Timer. So moving on to the next section of the meeting, that's our evaluation section. And yes, I'm not going to use the word feedback is the breakfast of the champions because I'm more conscious now. So rather, I would say that everyone should be ready with the evaluation for both the professional speaker as well as for the prepared speaker. And the session would be led by our Madam General Evaluator, Roli Sinha. And before I invite Roli on the virtual stage, I would just like to conclude my role and my short conversation on the magic of thinking quitting by just saying that I found it apt to talk about quitting, not because it is personally relevant to me. It's also about, I heard a lot of people since lockdown trying to pick up a lot of things to do, a lot of things to get started with an excitement that now we have all the time, we'll do this, we'll do that. And eventually, at some point in time, they get demotivated, disengaged, and discouraged to start anything new. I just have a quick short message here. Quit the wrong stuff. There is a lot of stuff in the world. Quit the wrong stuff, stick to the right one, and have the guts to do one or the other. And yes, if you get the time, do read the book. So that's as the Toastmaster of the day. I call it off and I invite our general evaluator. Our general evaluator, Toastmaster Roli Sinha, is sorry. Toastmaster Roli Sinha is a technical writer. She's currently serving as the VP Education of our club, and she's pursuing the innovative planning. That's what she asked me to share as an introduction. But what I know of her is she's a person who is very detailed, very dedicated, and a very dear person. I'm somehow scared of her general evaluator role, but yes, I have to look forward to it now to understand how the meeting went, what all we can do to be better. So without losing out on any time, Madam General Evaluator, the stage is all yours. Roli Sinha.
Thank you so much, Madam Toastmaster of the day. I believe that my first job should be to give you a round of applause so that you can reduce your fears and welcome me on stage without any hesitation. I still haven't got any knives or axes in my hand to cut you down. I'll just let my words do that talking for me. So thank you so much for such a incredible session throughout the meeting. There were a number of things going wrong and you handled all of those very well. So I'd like the audience to applaud our Toastmaster of the meeting, Toastmaster Hani Khanduja, one more time. Thank you. I shan't be switching on my video today. I'm not well enough for doing that. I do not want to even let people know how ill I'm feeling. But I'm very happy with the way the meeting has gone so far. And I will be sharing my observations in the third segment of the evaluation segment or session. The first session is for our speakers to take feedback from the audience. We had two speakers today. One was the professional speech and the second one was the prepared speech of Distinguished Toastmaster Raj Mehta. Distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh was not feeling very well. So at this point, I would have invited him to take feedback from the entire audience, but I'll be doing that task for him while in his absence. After we have taken feedback for the speakers, then we'll be moving on to the reports from the supplementary evaluators, the timer, R counter, and grammarian, or the language evaluator, and then will be my observations. So without further ado, that is one cliche for you, Distinguished Toastmaster Punita Singh, just in case you're still here. And let's begin. I would like to request for one of the members to show how this feedback is delivered. The intent is for each one to share at least one point that they feel the speaker was able to do very well and needs to improve upon. So do share your commendations and recommendations without going into too much of detail. If you feel that that is required, I would suggest that we can share those in the chat. You can share for Distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh. You can share the feedback privately, but let's just keep in mind that we have a nice number of members and guests today, and we'd like to cover feedback and opinions from everyone. So let me begin the session with Toastmaster Ankur Srimali. Would you care to share your feedback for Distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh's professional speech? Okay.
Not in the
Is he
room.
not here? Yeah, probably
Yeah,
not
Tony.
here.
Yeah,
Okay. So Toastmaster Anshupriya, would you be able to share your feedback?
Yeah, sure, really. I just loved his speech because he gave such useful tips and he covered all the every area of speaking. And I don't have any recommendation for him. I just loved the speech.
Okay, thank you. Distinguished Toastmaster Raj Mehta, can we have feedback from you?
Yeah. Today found that Rupinder was in a composed format, a bit informal and confident, of course, as always he is. What I would like to recommend that he said that he would be talking about 7 steps, but I could not distinguishably mark the 7 steps. Even at the time of summary, he could not count 7. And some of the steps which he has delivered, I do not agree, but that is okay. That is my opinion. But as far as the delivery of the PS was concerned, it was good, and I took many points for my use in future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Distinguished Toastmaster Dr. Punita Singh, can we have feedback from you?
May I abstain because I was a little bit distracted at that moment and it wouldn't be fair for me to comment?
Yes, ma'am, that's perfectly all right. Thank you for such an honest admission. Would I be able to get feedback from Distinguished Toastmaster Pinaki Das, sir?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, maybe, I just had one suggestion. See, when Rupinder had so many points, so he had 7 points, for the 7 steps which he mentioned. So maybe he could have thought of a acronym or something so that which becomes an easy takeaway for the people who are not noting down the notes. So maybe in this case, he could have used an acronym like a time wrap, okay, or a time warp. So which is like topics, ideas, and so just picking up, the first letter from, from the various points which he made. So he could have arrived at a acronym which could have been a takeaway. So when I say time wrap, so I'm saying like topics, ideas. So he spoke about table topics, then message. That was his second point. So it's M for message. Then E for everything. So write everything. Then W was about writing. So writing for the ear and writing for the eye. Then rewriting of speeches, which is the R. So and then practice. So which is the P. And anytime, anywhere, anyhow for the A. So maybe some thought like that. When you're having too many points to make, you could end up with an acronym. So that is one feedback that I have got.
Thank you, sir. Any other points that you would like to share?
No, that's all from me.
Okay, thank you, sir. I can see guest Kapil. Would you be able to share your feedback?
Yeah, Rolly. So I actually find it very interesting. It can be used as a ready reckoner for me because I'm in my journey towards in this Toastmaster. So I recently joined Toastmaster. So yeah, actually, I think it was a good takeaway for me.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Area Director Seema Ramesh, may I have feedback from you?
Yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to make one suggestion, like DTM Rupinder had mentioned that do not by heart a speech. But I have I was trying to figure out if I do not by heart a speech and I need to keep up with the time limit. Of course, I will not by heart, but how do I know when to adjust accordingly in keeping with the time? That is just one point that I want, that I thought he would explain upon, but probably because he was under the weather.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Do you have any other points that you'd like to share?
No.
Okay. Thank you. I can see the red card up. I will be sure to pass on these points, how useful everyone found it and how an acronym could have been used and the timing of the speech could have been determined without memorizing the speech. So if there was a way to do that. So I'll be happy to pass on these points to Distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh. I'd like to now hand over the stage to our speaker, prepared speaker, Distinguished Toastmaster Raj Mehta, so that he can get feedback from all of you. Thank you. Sir,
Thank
all
you,
yours.
Thank you, General Evaluator Rolly Sina. I would like to have your feedback on my voice and my pronunciation and any other thing which you notice I need to improve. I'll go with the Mukesh Thakur.
Thank you very much, Raj sir. So specifically when you are asking for the pronunciation, so what I could observe, I can vividly remember when you went to Dalvinder and asked some question. Since you changed the direction at the stage, I could not hear actually what question you asked from him. It happened in the second time also. I could not understand what you asked from him. Now coming to the commendation, it was a good attempt for the humorous speech. And at the same time, it is also a recommendation that I could not find the exact message you wanted to deliver through the speech. So as I can see, if you are trying to deliver a humorous speech, there must be some message, some key. So I kept finding what actually you wanted to say. You wanted to deliver some humor and you succeeded in that also, but the main purpose of the speech, I think I could not get. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mukesh. May I request Anshupriya?
Yeah, sure, Rasa. I'm so happy to see you transforming as a speaker. Like you were more relaxed and expressive this time. And I also saw you for a spur of moment, you were dancing, you were trying to dance. So that is really good, very good change. Because earlier you used to be stiff while you used to deliver speeches, but now you are more relaxed. That's a good sign. Thank you.
Thank you, Anshupriya. May I request Chanpan DDM to give some recommendation?
Thank you so much. My recommendation would be that as this was a humorous speech, there were possibilities for you to bring in voice modulation and facial gestures into it. For example, when you spoke about the Pandit, you spoke in a very flat voice that I spoke to the Pandit and he said TBD. Whereas if you could have created the Pandit, for example, you could have the Pandit said TBD or something like that, yeah, which is kind of showing visually that there was a Pandit speaking. That could have created the impact. Secondly, I felt that you could have worked on the pauses maybe a little better because the humor comes in that silence when you are putting a pause in, and that would allow the emotions to really accentuate. But other than that, I think there were a lot of very powerful punches in it. I enjoyed myself, and I hope to be here again. Thank you.
Thank you, Jayan. May I request Devina? Devina?
Hello?
Hello.
Am I audible, Raj sir?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay. So I was going in and out of your speech because of internet issues. But I just wanted to say one thing, that the subject of death makes me personally extremely uncomfortable. And I would have really liked it if you just did at least something to make me a little comfortable there, because at that point of time, it just alienated me a little bit just right at the beginning.
Thank you. May I request Punita Singh DTM?
I was impressed by your fluency, Raj, because I'm hearing you after a long time. And so the flow with which you narrated your story, that was very impressive. In terms of the content, I was finding it a little bit hard to relate to. So I'm not going to comment on that. But I think overall, I enjoyed your speech.
Thank you. May I request Pinakida DTM? Pinakida. You there? May I request Rolly Sina?
Sure, sir. So I felt a little bit of a disconnect time at times because I could not understand what each of the TBT meant. I think that punch should have come fairly close to the suspense that you had created, and then it would have created a more humorous impact. Otherwise, I love the humor in it. Yes.
Thank you, Rolly. As the time is up, I would like to summarize in just one sentence that at some places my voice was too low and clear message was missing. I need to work on pauses more, and sometimes this subject also matters to the audience. I shall be working on these points. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much, distinguished Toastmaster Raj Mehta. We shall be moving to the feedback and reports from our Aussie role players. The first person I'd like to invite is our grammarian or language evaluator, distinguished Toastmaster Shivpriya Gauri. Would you please take the stage?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A very good evening to each and everybody. It's indeed a pleasure being the grammarian for the day. I would start with the word of the day, and the word of the day was used only by the table topic master. The TMOD did mention, but not in the context of how it should be used. Generally, it was an acknowledgement that that was a word of the day. Secondly, each and everybody, so Dr. Punita Singh, I did not mean to use it, but I'll be very conscious from next time onwards. Secondly, coming to the good usages, I really liked a lot of good usages which came out today. And the irony was that all these cliches, when I was writing it down, then Dr. Punita Singh drops a bomb saying that, hey, guess what? You have to be more mindful. So for the interest of time, I am not going to go forward. I would be presenting, or I would be sharing my analysis of the entire grammar usage. First and foremost, there were some speakers who did speak in the past, or they were explaining an event in the past, and in between they used present continuous. For example, I asked person A what happened, and he was saying, or he is saying. So please be mindful that if you're explaining an event in the past, you also keep that as a past, do not bring it into a present continuous tense. That's number one. Number two, I also sense that there were some mispronunciations which were used, such as perseverance was pronounced as perseverance. So it's Percy, not Pressy. Number three, I felt that the word thing is being used extremely, or I would say that it was misused a lot today. So the third point was the third thing, and every time somebody wanted to look for a word, they used as a thing, though it could also be covered in accounting, but I personally felt that the thing had become a regular norm and it is not fitting appropriately to the context. Number four, the fourth point which I want to make in terms of analysis is that wherever people are using great words, or wherever people are using good vocabulary, it is not substantiated, or it is just used once, but the second part of the sentence is somewhere it is going out of context. To give you an example, if I use an idiom in the first part of the sentence, the second part of the sentence is not relating to the idiom. So I would request you to perhaps do a little bit of research, or use the complete sentence which is relating to the idiom. So these are some of the recommendations I would like to give you as a language master. Now I would give the stage back to the general evaluator.
Thank you so much, Madam Grammarian. Dropping a bomb is also a cliche as far as I know, but you used it well. Thank you. So we will now move on to the R counters report, even though we haven't been as forward about using the word of the day as our grammarian would have liked. But I hope that we have given less work to our R counter of the day today. Toastmaster. Oh, sorry. Distinguished Toastmaster Mukesh Thakur, you're probably sharing your screen, is that correct?
Yeah, so can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Please.
Thank you very much, Madam General Evaluator. So I would like to share the screen for the R counter. As you can see, the total number of such words on the R counter for the day has got a record of 71 times. It includes all kinds of clutch words, including short pauses, arms, the use of word so well, you know, me, repetitions, everything. So I will quickly go one by one and we will share individually how it went. As far as the Toastmasters of the day is concerned, Toastmaster Honey used combining everything, it was used 27 times. And you can see most of it is a repetition. So in my report, repetitions and and ums are combined because this cell was not working. So I have used repetitions for and ums also. So the Toastmaster of the day has to work upon ums and repetitions. Coming to grammarian, DTM Shipriya used repetitions twice, and that too only during our report. Next is professional speaker Rupinder Singh. Total bad users is 9. That includes 4 repetitions, including ahs and ums, and use of so 3 times, and wrong pause twice. Prepared speakers, DTM Raj Mehta used 3 times, and the table topic master Shukriya used 3 times, and one use of so. Then in the table topic speaker, first speaker was Kapil. He used 5 times, 1 repetition, so total 6. Asthana 9 times, ahs and ums, and then 1 time repetition, and then 2 times wrong pause. Coming to the power topic speaker, I was totally awestruck because of her use of the words, but still I was able to find that apart from the technical glitches, there was one throughout in her long power topic speech, 1 small repetition, and 1 small pause. Overall, I found that we are improving in terms of the use of our counter as individually as well as the club as a whole, because the last time the number was 90, around 90. So we are improving, and let's hope for no number of our counter in the next meeting. That we generally went for.
Thank you so much, distinguished Toastmaster Mukesh Thakur. We will move on to our timer for her report. Toastmaster Anu Seth, please present your report.
Thank you, Madam Journal Evaluator. So just give me a minute so that I can share my screen with all of you. I hope my screen is visible. Rolly, can you please confirm?
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah, it is visible.
You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. It was really a forbid for all of you, and it's time to evaluate. Note down the time for all the forbid speakers for today. Starting from the very first session of our meeting, in the opening segment, the presiding officer, Rupinder Singh DTM, has taken 45 seconds. He read the mission statement in 30 seconds and has acknowledged the guest in 1 minute 3 seconds. He completed the business segment in 6 minutes and 5 seconds. We were in time during the segment. As the Toastmaster of the day, Honey Khanduja took 10 minutes and 13 seconds. She introduced the structure of the meeting in 40 seconds and introduced the role players in 2 minutes 26 seconds. The first session of the meeting was the professional speech, in which Rupinder Singh DTM has delivered his professional speech in 13 minutes and 26 seconds. Coming to the table topic session, the Anshuk Priya, the table topic master, has taken 2 minutes 57 seconds. The first table topic speaker took 1 minute 54 seconds. The second table topic speaker, Asthana Banu, took 1 minute 39 seconds. And the third table topic speaker, Jaggi, took 1 minute 4 seconds. Coming to the prepared speaker session, the Toastmaster Raj Mehta DTM took 5 minutes 48 seconds for his speech. Power Talk speaker Dr. Punita Singh DTM. She has taken 23 minutes and 43 seconds for her Power Talk. Now coming to the last segment, that is the evaluation session. The journal evaluator in her opening segment took 3 minutes 18 seconds. For the evaluation of the professional speaker, the evaluation was given in 5 minutes 46 seconds. For the evaluation of the first speaker, that is Raj Mehta DTM, the time taken was 5 minutes 35 seconds. Grammarian Shipra Gauri DTM took 3 minutes for her grammarian report. Accountant Mukesh Thakur DTM and for his accountant report has taken 3 minutes 2 seconds. Back to Padam Journal Evaluator.
Thank you so much, Madam Timer. It was quite a comprehensive report. Now I'd like to share my screen. One of you can see the general evaluators reports and observation. So the overall meeting score is 0.32, which is not 0 and it's not 1. So we're somewhere in the middle and we can do better. What can help us reach that target of 0 defect, as our president so often and fondly calls it, is having some kind of a note or an inspirational story or about how unique PS is in terms of a Toastmasters community. In the beginning, when the introduction segment is there, just after the slides for all the members and their goals have been shared. The intro for the TMOD would have added a good touch as well. For the TMOD, I felt that the topic was quite relevant. We should be thinking about why quitting should also be considered, and the right time of quitting perhaps yields more success. The graphics were good as well. I just felt that because the theme title was related to marathon, the examples could have been related to the topic of marathon, because that avoids the theme title from becoming just an attention grabber. I missed the meeting structure being explained, which is something important, especially because we had quite a few guests today who would not be comfortable or familiar with the idea of how a professional speakers meeting is conducted. The feedback from the guests is extremely important for our speakers. So before we move to the professional speech segment, it is essential to remind the guests that their feedback is equally important and they should take advantage of the 1 minute time window that is offered after every speech to note down their feedback, which they can share if and when the speaker calls them on stage. I love the slides that she had for the auxiliary role players. It would have been a good idea to confirm the timer strategy for sharing the timing indications prior to the beginning of the meeting. The introduction was personally constructed. It was aligned with the theme for the professional speaker, but it went on a tad too long. The professional speaker had remarkably articulated steps for creating and delivering a spectacular speech. More examples, I think, would have helped. But overall, I did love this speech. It was quite well constructed and quite compact. In the evaluation segment, again, a reminder to the guests that they should note down their feedback for the speaker would be good. And if the timer can have the PPT or the PDF file ready before sharing the screen, it looks better and more professional. The introduction to the first speaker, our only prepared speaker in that short speeches segment, was quite good. and kept to the minimum. The speech itself, I felt, was humorous. It lent a nice moment of levity, and I congratulate the speaker for continuing in spite of the drop in net connection. The rest of the meeting was progressing quite cleanly, simply because we didn't have a second prepared speaker today in the short speeches segment. The table topics, I felt that we should try to demand listening skills out of our table topic speakers and not have slides for just textual topics. If there are pictures to be shown or we want to ask our speakers to extrapolate on that, that is a good idea. But just having a title, I think I've done this myself and I realized that that's not actually a good idea to improve the listener skills in our table topic speakers. For addressing distinguished Toastmasters, it's better to call them as Distinguished Toastmaster Raj Mehta. Raj Mehta, comma, space DTM is how we write it. So there is a difference between how we invite people on stage and how we specify their names in the agenda or an email. But the introduction came from the heart of the Toastmaster of the day, and that made it very beautiful. For the power talk, it was engaging. It had such a beautiful poetic language. It explained the etymologies and the remedies of cliche usages. Contemporizes my takeaway message, and honestly it reminded me of this term that I'd come across a few years ago called paraprostokians. To just give you an idea, it says where there is a will, I want to be there in it. So it's funny and it's contemporary because money is where everyone's mind is, right? I like the Toastmaster of the Day's introduction of the general evaluator. It was personalized, it was alliterative. The general evaluator's introduction for the professional speaker went on a little too long. That should have been avoided. Rest of the evaluations were pretty much constructive and helpful, I felt. The timer, I would suggest it would be a good idea if the timer cannot share the screen, then share the indications in the chat window so that the role players stay on track. The grammarians focus on awkward usages seemed a little more than the creative usages in the meeting. I think that both should get equal focus so that we are encouraged to come back again. And many of us are struggling with our language and we need that encouragement for sure. I love the Accountants report. The format was very well utilized. Very well done. It was a wonderful meeting. Distinguished Toastmaster Punita Singh and Distinguished Toastmaster Pinaki Das Jayant was a wonderful touch to the meeting. I'm very grateful that I was a part of this one. At this point, I would have invited our president to take over the stage, but because of his illness, I'll just be assuming a part of that role myself. And I'll ask the guests who are still here with us to share their feedback and their viewpoints and what can we do better. So in the, we have just three guests that I can see at the moment. So I'll ask Distinguished Toastmaster Punita Singh to set the ball rolling. I love using cliches and somebody tells me don't.
Some of them are very effective. Yeah, it was interesting to be at a meeting again after so long. I found it a little bit unnerving in terms of the registration process, because I think there's a lot of redundancy in it. There's a set of questions that comes up when you first log on, and then again another set of questions. So I found that a little bit, annoying. So if you're a guest and you're trying to sign into this, the process could be made a little bit easier instead of having a double layered process. Then once I was in the room, then I really enjoyed it. It was great to see some familiar faces and some new faces, and to witness the whole meeting going on. I learned a lot of new things from Honey about the marathon, and lots of details around that, and the motivational message about quitting at the right time and quitting the right things. And then it's always also interesting to hear different speakers. So overall, I enjoyed the meeting. In terms of suggestions, I'm not sure of the timeline. I think, haven't we exceeded it now, or are we now in the 22 minutes I saw on the agenda for discussion? So there are a few things that are a little bit enigmatic to me, just because I haven't been around for a while. But it's been good to hear everyone and to, again, be a part of this community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We have exceeded the time. I cannot deny that. I'm really sorry also about it. But I still would like to hear from our area director for one of the districts, for one of the divisions. Seema Ramesh, would you be able to share your feedback?
Yes, thank you so much. This is the second time that I've attended one of your meetings. Last time I couldn't stay long, but this time I'm really glad that I did. Although I feel that the time is a bit exceeding, I really had a wonderful time. The theme, the special talk, the power talk, the speech by DTM Rupinder, everything, it was a very wholesome meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Astana Banu, would you like to share your feedback or your suggestions?
Yes, good evening. So this was the first time I have attended this meeting of professional speakers. So the reports which you have presented, like for the evaluations, the R counter, it is new for me. Like in our club also, I'm from Aditya Toastmasters and I'm the VP Education. So I will surely try to apply that. One feedback which I can say is if you can have the evaluation of table topic speakers also, they will feel enlightened, like what's your take on the speech. So that is a feedback which can be applied. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Istana. That's actually direct feedback from me as a general evaluator. I should have included the evaluation for the table topic speakers in my report, but I could not. I decided to give priority somewhere else, but point well taken, and I am sure that we will try to improve on that. Distinguished Toastmaster Chen, would you like to share your feedback, even though you joined a little towards the second half?
But it was a great meeting. I enjoyed myself. It was an honor to witness Dr. Punita Singh after such a long time. I do remember seeing her last in Agra in oration. So it's always been a great opportunity to be here and be part of this meeting. Some of my feedback has already been covered, so in the interest of time, I will not go through it. But just happy to be here. Hope to have the honor again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. With the feedback from our esteemed guests, not judges, but guests, we can now move to the next segment, which is actually our MOT. The guests are welcome to stay if you'd like, but this is just basically a members only segment. And I know that each one of you has already shared the time has been exceeded. Yes, the time has been exceeded. We just like to get on with it. And it's your choice whether you would like to stay over. With that, I'd like to invite somebody who took over the reins last time. And I'm very glad that she took it over, because when I went through the recording, I could see that She did such a fabulous job of it, collecting and assimilating and acknowledging feedback from each of the members. I'd like her to please continue the task of MOT, report presentation and assimilation. Distinguished Toastmaster Devina Chaturvedi. Thank you. You can unmute yourself, Devina. Okay, I can't hear her. Yeah, now I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Am I audible now?
Yes, yes, you are. Thank you.
Okay, so maybe now stop recording on YouTube so that we can begin with our moments of truth.
Yes, but we would, but we would still record the meeting, right?
Yes.